We'll be talking about the pop punk band from the late 70s to the mid 80s that everybody hates to love and loves to hate. I'm Michael Douglas. Welcome to this edition of Dr. Pundit, where we talk about music, not medicine. And on this edition of the show, we got another big five for you. That's right, 5 big songs, in this case by the group The Cars. You either love them or you hate them, or you're in between, or you hate to love them or love to hate them. I was pretty much in the love them to love them category, if there was one. I love The Cars, and I thought that they were a band that was ahead of its time. And the late Ric Ocasek was the personality of the band. And whether you consider them pop punk, it doesn't matter. They just made really good music. And I'm here to talk about their 5 biggest performers on the Billboard Hot 100. So let's get into it. What are the Cars' biggest U.S. hits? The Cars came bustling out of Boston with their polished new wave attack on a 1978 debut album that plastered them all over FM rock radio. They also began to cross over pretty early on to pop audiences who grooved to their precise rhythmic attacks and plentiful hooks. And which songs were their biggest on the pop charts? Well, let's take a look at the 5 sure shots on the Billboard Hot 100 from this legendary quintet. At number 5, Let's Go. It hit number 14 in 1979 from the LP Candy-O. And whenever a band comes out of the gate with a debut as accomplished and full of gems as the Cars managed to do, it's natural to wonder what they might do for an encore. At number 5, Let's Go from the LP Candy-O. That hit number 14 in 1979. Whenever a band comes out of the gate with a debut as accomplished and full of gems as the Cars' self-titled debut, it's natural to wonder what they would do for an encore. Candy-O, the band's 1979 follow-up, was a little bit weirder and darker. But they did something clever by starting off the album with Let's Go, also choosing it as the first single. The song is up-tempo, and it's in very much with keeping with the spirit of giving fans a smooth transition into what they were trying to do with Candy-O. Let's Go, propulsive as a musical starter's pistol, also gave them their first top 20 single. At number 4, You Might Think, their first of 2, of course, from Heartbeat City. This song hit number 7 in 1984. The Cars' first 4 albums were all produced by Roy Thomas Baker, and considering the quality of those records, it clearly was a productive relationship. But it's sometimes good to try out different chemistries, and it's hard to argue with the results the band achieved while working with the ubiquitous Mutt Lange. Everything on Heartbeat City gleams just a little bit brighter, guitars are a little bit stronger, and it's all streamlined for what was required in 1984. Ric Ocasek's most flab-free pop songs, You Might Think, was this version of the Cars that they really wanted to introduce to the world.
Maybe I think I'm lucky. That's something to do. But I think that you're wild. Inside me is some child.
You Might Think. At number 3, Tonight She Comes, my favorite Cars song. It hit number 7, and it was the new track on their Greatest Hits album in 1985. Consider Tonight She Comes to be kind of a victory lap for the band, and at the end of the massively successful cycle for Heartbeat City, which included 5 top 40 singles and encompassed an appearance at Live Aid, the band hustled out a Greatest Hits compilation to capitalize on that momentum. And to sweeten the deal, they dropped this incredibly catchy single that Ocasek had initially intended to record for a solo record. And in many ways, it was a last hurrah for the band because their next LP, 1987's Door to Door, really drained them of their energy, and they were headed for a breakup, but we won't be talking about that album.
She's taking a swipe at fun. She gives me a reason, setting my sights.
Number 2, Shake It Up from 1981. It hit number 4 from their LP Panorama. That LP was released a year earlier in 1980, and it's one of the Cars' album that never quite found a footing on radio. And the lead single, which is a good track, Touch and Go, just barely scraped the top 40. And even though many of the band's fans cite it as one of their finest achievements, it's clear upon hearing Shake It Up that the band was thinking in terms of getting back onto the charts, and the effort was worth it. The song had been trotted out several times in previous Cars sessions over the years until they finally found the right feel for it, complete with Greg Hawkes' spiraling synthesizers, David Robinson's relentless beats, and Elliot Easton's massive guitar solo.
Excuse, dance all night with anyone. Don't let nobody pick your phone. Shake it up. Shake it up. Yeah, shake it up.
And finally, number 1, of course, Drive from Heartbeat City. It hit number 3 in 1984. The Cars had done ballads before and done them well, All Mixed Up and I'm Not the One are a couple of examples, but they always reserved them for album tracks and kept the singles on the peppier side. They couldn't hold back with Drive, which contradicts in spectacular fashion the critics who heard them as bloodless and cold. And part of that obviously was Ocasek's writing, as he located the heartbreak in trying to save someone who doesn't want to be saved. And part of it is the heart-rending vocal by Ben Orr, who plays it straight and lets the natural ache in his voice do all the work. And of course, Benjamin Orr has passed away too. He had a hit about 2 years later called Stay the Night, another good track.
Who's gonna tell you things aren't so great?
I'm Michael Douglas. Those are what Billboard magazine says are the 5 biggest Cars songs in their career. I'd have to agree. Tonight She Comes is my favorite. But the Cars repertoire, with the exception of the 1987 album Door to Door. But again, that's possibly a story for another day here on the channel. Today's episode was clearly for their 5 top performing tracks. The Big 5 on this edition of Dr. Pundit. I'm Michael Douglas, and if you like what you see here on the channel, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. And until the next time, as the late great Barry White always used to say, let the music play, and I'll see you on the next episode.